Welcome. Today we're going to talk about the history of email. Email is something that touches all of our lives. In fact, there are over 100 million emails sent every day. We're going to talk about the timeline of email, and email goes back to 1970 where it all first started. In 1971, engineer Ray Tomlinson first sent the first email. This was as simple as some simple letters being sent across a network. This was QWERTY, in fact, being sent across a network. This was the first recognized email being sent across a network. In 1976, interestingly enough, the first head of state sent an email. This was Queen Elizabeth. She sent an email. This is actually not very commonly known. In 1978, the first electronic advertisement goes out on email. This was actually not even using what we commonly now know as the internet. This was actually using the former predecessor to the internet, which we all know as ARPANET. So this was back again over 30 years ago that these technologies were being utilized. In 1982, the word email is first commonly used and accepted. All the uses before this were actually just text messages or fragments being used. The word email was not actually commonly accepted, and the word electronic mail was not commonly used. Before 1982, it was technologies that were being utilized with a view towards email becoming something. Before 1982, this concept, while being developed, was not fully realized at this point. In 1982, also, the first emoticon was sent. This was a smiley face. And that was also pivotal because we all use these today in social media, in messaging, in emails. These are commonplace and we do them subliminally without even thinking about it. That goes back to 1982. And this is commonplace and it's actually part of email. People sometimes mistake and think that this is part of social media or part of SMS, text messages, but no, this actually started with email back in 1982. So in 1991, this is where things really started to heat up. The birth of the internet. Innovators like Tim Berners-Lee created protocols such as HTTP and HTML. This is what really started the birth of email, as well as the internet, of course, but allowing and providing those protocols allowed information traffic to sprawl the world over. These protocols allowed information to be transferred in such an easy manner that email just grew and proportionately started being used as commonplace. This was back in 1991. This transformation actually took email from what was a concept into a commonplace commodity for the workplace at that point. 1992, the cell phone became commonplace. Not only that, email was available on cell phone. Again, going back to when the birth of the internet became commonplace, the protocols such as HTTP and HTML allowed this evolution to occur. This was pivotal because email became something that was on the go at this point. You didn't have to be tied to a PC to get your email. This was pivotal. You could receive your email while in transit. You could be in your car, on the beach, and you could receive your email on networks that were not grounded. These were mobile networks that you could receive your email on. This again was a transformation that took email another stage further. In 1996, we saw email take another important step. This is a step that many technologies have taken, going from paid entities to free entities. With email, we saw the introduction of Hotmail. This was free email. Today, we see it as commonplace. You can get Gmail, and this is one of the biggest and most used emails out there. Why is this important? It's important because email is not viewed as something we have to pay for today. It is so commoditized, it is so commercially available today that email is there for everybody. This was such an important step towards getting email out there and so commonplace. This was back in 1996 when the email was starting to really flourish. 1998, the word spam was added to the dictionary. Why? Because email was so commonplace that there were bad actors out there. They were starting to see that this entity, email, that was so commonplace in our personal lives, in the workplace, was definitely a target for threat vectors and for bad actors. So the word spam also became commonplace. It got added to the dictionary. Why? Because email was so widely available and so widely used. That was back in 1998. So then finally we get to the late 90s, and this is really the beginnings of where we are today. Email starts being revolutionized in the workplace. The beginnings of this, for anybody that's old enough to remember, was Lotus Notes. Lotus Notes really began commercializing email. It took email and said, this is going to be something we need to take into the workplace. How did they do that? They did that by commercializing and commoditizing email into something that was useful for the workplace. So they took the free sort of emails out there and they said, we're going to turn email into a collaborative, useful tool. They combined what was formerly a number of packages, Lotus 1, 2, 3, and a bunch of other packages, and they combined that into a collaborative suite. Anybody who remembers Lotus Notes, versions 2, 3, what is now today 9, it's now been trumped obviously by Office 365, which is what we're here today to talk about. But that was the beginnings of email becoming commonplace, really commonplace in the workplace. The fact that you could email and you could interact your email with other solutions. And that's really what is so powerful about email in the workplace today. The fact that email can be interacted with other solutions in the workplace. So I hope that gives everybody a broad overview of the history of email. It started out as something very simple, a fragment of text. It built upon other technologies, the internet, mobility, and then obviously through consumerization and the workplace became something a lot more powerful and a lot more widely utilized. Thank you.